The red sun hung low over the dying world of Kepler 44-b, casting long shadows across the crystal towers that had once been the pride of the Varati civilization. Park Min-ho pressed his face against the cold viewing window of the central spire, watching the alien beings move slowly through their crumbling city below. The Varati looked like living glass sculptures. Their tall, thin bodies seemed to glow with a soft inner light, and their skin was so clear you could almost see through it. They had 4 long fingers on each hand, and large dark eyes that held the sadness of 1,000 years. When they walked, they moved like dancers, graceful and silent. Min-ho was one of only 3 humans on this forgotten world. He had been part of an exploration team that crashed here 5 years ago. The other members of his crew had died in the landing, leaving him stranded with the dying aliens. But instead of treating him as an enemy, the Varati had saved his life and made him part of their community. "The air cleaners are failing again," said his friend Yoon Sora, another crash survivor. She walked up behind him, her voice tired and worried. "The north section lost 2 more machines today. The Varati are having trouble breathing in that area now." Min-ho nodded but did not turn around. Through the window, he could see Varati workers trying to fix one of the great machines that cleaned their air. Their movements were slow and careful. Everything they did seemed to take great effort, as if the weight of their dying world pressed down on their shoulders. The Varati had once ruled 7 different planets. They had built cities that floated in the clouds and ships that could travel between the stars faster than light itself. Their minds could speak to each other without words, sharing thoughts and feelings across great distances. They were scientists and artists and philosophers who had unlocked the secrets of consciousness itself. But that was before the Devourers came. Min-ho had heard the story many times from Elder Whisper of Morning Rain, the oldest of the surviving Varati. The Devourers were machines, cold and hungry things that ate entire worlds. They had appeared without warning in Varati space 200 years ago. One by one, they had destroyed every Varati planet, every space station, every ship. The great network that connected all Varati minds had gone silent as world after world was consumed. This colony on Kepler 442b had been cut off during the war. They had waited for news, for rescue, for any sign that other Varati had survived. But the silence stretched on for decades, then for centuries. Slowly, the survivors had accepted the truth. They were alone. They were the last of their kind. "How many today?" Min-ho asked, still staring out the window. 12, Sora replied softly. "The sickness took 12 more, and 3 babies were born, but—" She did not finish the sentence. They both knew what happened to Varati babies now. Without new blood from other worlds, the Varati children were born weak and sick. Most died before their first year. Min finally turned away from the window. In the 5 years he had lived here, he had watched the Varati population drop from 65,000 to barely 50,000. The machines that kept them alive were breaking down one by one. Worse, the Varati themselves were slowly disappearing, as families could no longer have healthy children. "The Elder wants to see you," Sora said. "She is in the memory chamber." Min-ho walked through the crystal corridors toward the heart of the city. The walls around him glowed with soft blue light, powered by technology he could barely understand. Varati moved past him like ghosts, their large eyes following him with curiosity and kindness, despite their own suffering. They had always treated the 3 human survivors as honored guests. The memory chamber was a vast round room filled with floating crystals. Each crystal held the stored memories and thoughts of dead Varati, preserving their knowledge and experiences for future generations. Elder Whisper of Morning Rain stood in the center, her ancient hands touching one of the larger crystals. When she saw Min-ho, her thoughts reached into his mind through the translation device. He wore. The Varati could not speak with their mouths the way humans did. Instead, they shared their thoughts directly from mind to mind. "Young human friend," her mental voice was like music in his head. "I have been consulting the memories of our ancestors. They speak of a time when we believed the universe was full of life, full of hope. We sent messages to the stars, hoping to find others like us. But you never found anyone, Minho said aloud. The translation device would turn his words into thoughts the elder could understand. No, she replied. We found only silence. And then, the devourers found us instead. Her mental voice grew heavy with old pain. But you are here. 3 humans on our world. If your kind could find us, perhaps others might as well. Minho felt his heart sink. The elder was a wise and ancient being, but she was also desperate. She wanted to believe that rescue might still come, that her people might somehow be saved. But Minho knew the truth. Earth was far away, and no one knew where his team had crashed. No one was coming to save the Verathi. As if reading his thoughts. The elder continued, I know you believe we are doomed. Perhaps you are right. But I have lived for 800 of your years, Minho. I have seen many impossible things become possible. Hope is sometimes all that stands between a people and the darkness. Outside, another air cleaner failed with a deep, groaning sound that echoed through the crystal towers. Time was running out for the last of the Verathi, and hope seemed like a very fragile thing indeed. The alarm bells of the UES Discovery rang through every corridor as Captain Kim Jun-seok stared at the impossible readings on his screen. His ship had dropped out of hyperspace near the Kepler system for what should have been a simple mapping mission. Instead, they had found something that would change everything. Captain, I am reading massive artificial structures on the 4th planet, said Lieutenant Park Hyjin from her station. Her voice shook with excitement. The energy patterns do not match anything in our computer files. This is definitely alien technology. Dr. Lee Taman, the ship's expert on alien life, practically bounced in his chair. Sir, the atmosphere readings show breathable air and controlled weather systems. There could be living aliens down there right now. Jun-seok felt, his heart racing. Humanity had been searching the stars for over 200 years, hoping to find other intelligent life. They had found plenty of planets with simple creatures, but never anything that could build cities or talk back to them. This could be the most important discovery in human history. Take us closer, he ordered, but keep our weapons ready. We do not know what we are dealing with. As the Discovery moved toward Kepler 442b, the alien city came into view on their screens. It was beautiful and strange, with tall crystal towers that seemed to grow from the ground like frozen trees. Bridges of light connected the buildings, and the whole city glowed with soft colors that shifted like the northern lights. But something was wrong. Several towers showed damage, with dark sections where the lights had gone out. Energy readings from the city were weak and getting weaker. Whatever lived down there was in trouble. Captain, called Ensign Cho Minjin from communications. I am picking up very faint radio signals from the surface. They are not trying to talk to us, though. It sounds like emergency broadcasts, but in a language our computers cannot understand. Jun-seok made his decision. First contact protocols, said. To be careful, to study the aliens from a distance before making contact. But if these beings were dying, careful might mean too late. Prepare a shuttle, he commanded. Dr. Lee, you are with me. We are going down there, on the surface of Kepler 42b. Elder Whisper of Morning Rain felt the approaching human ship through her people's shared consciousness. After 2 centuries of silence from the stars, something had finally come to their world. Her first thought was terror. The Devourers have found us, she transmitted to her council. After all these years, they have come to finish what they started. The memory of those terrible machines was burned into every Verathi mind. They had swept across Verathi space like a plague, turning entire worlds into lifeless metal and stone. Only this small colony had escaped, hidden in the shadow of their distant star. Shall we hide? Asked Flo of Evening Wind, one of the younger council members. We could shut down all our systems, make the city look empty. No, replied the elder after a long moment. If death has come for us, we will meet it with dignity. But first, let us see what approaches. When the human shuttle landed outside the city walls, a small group of Verati came out to meet it. They moved slowly, their fragile bodies shaking with fear and weakness. Many carried breathing devices too, helped them survive in the failing atmosphere of their city. The shuttle door opened, and two figures in strange suits stepped out. They were shorter than Verati, with thick, solid bodies and faces hidden behind clear masks. The aliens raised their hands with empty palms, a gesture the Verati did not understand, but somehow felt was peaceful. Dr. Lee pulled out a small device and began broadcasting simple mathematical patterns. 1 + 1 = 2, the first 10 prime numbers, the value of pi. It was the universal language that all intelligent beings should understand. Elder Whisper of Morning Rain felt a surge of hope she had not experienced in decades. These were not the cold, hungry machines that had destroyed her people. These beings were trying to talk, trying to communicate. They were showing intelligence and patience. She activated her own translation device and began responding with mathematical sequences of her own. Slowly, carefully, the two species began to build a bridge of understanding between their minds. Captain Junseok watched in amazement as Dr. Lee worked with the tall, glowing alien who seemed to be their leader. The alien's skin was like living crystal, and its eyes were large pools of darkness that seemed to hold incredible sadness. When it moved, it was like watching liquid light flow through glass dot after an hour of careful communication. Dr. Lee turned to Junseok with tears in his eyes. Captain, I think I understand some of what they are trying to tell us. This is not their original home. They are refugees from somewhere else, and they are dying. The alien leader, who had introduced herself through pictures and numbers as something like Whisper of Morning Rain, approached Junseok directly through the translation device. Her thoughts reached him like music made of mathematics and emotion. You are not the devourers, she transmitted. You are something new, something warm and alive. But why do you come to our cursed world? Why do you not flee, as the wise would do? Junseok looked at this ancient, dying being and felt something shift in his chest. These people had survived alone for centuries, watching their civilization crumble around them. They expected nothing but death from the universe, yet they still tried to communicate with strangers. Because, he said aloud, knowing his words would be translated into her thoughts, no one should have to face the end alone. The alien's response was a shimmering wave of color across her skin that needed no translation. For the first time in 200 years, the Verati were not alone in the universe. The great council chamber on Earth was filled with angry voices as representatives from every human world argued about the fate of the Verati. 3 months had passed since Captain Kim Junseok had made contact with the dying alien civilization, and now humanity faced its biggest decision in history. Admiral Choi Byung-ho slammed his fist on the table, his face red with frustration. We cannot ignore the military advantages, he shouted over the noise. These aliens have technology that could make our ships 10 times faster. Their mind-linking abilities could revolutionize our communication systems. We should bring them to our research stations, where our scientists can study them properly. Dr. Shin Nara stood up from her seat, her voice sharp with anger. Listen to yourself. You want to turn these people into lab rats. The Verati had space travel when our ancestors were still living in caves. They deserve respect, not imprisonment. President Park Dong-hein raised his hand for silence. The room gradually quieted, though tension still filled the air like electricity. Before a storm. Captain Kim, you have spent the most time with these aliens. What do you think we should do? Junseok had been dreading this moment. He thought about Elder Whisper of Morning Rain, about the quiet dignity with which she faced her people's extinction. He thought about the Verati children he had seen, too weak to play like human children, slowly dying as their genetic code collapsed from centuries of isolation. The Varati are not specimens to be studied, he said firmly. They are people. When I offered to relocate them to human worlds, Elder Whisper of Morning Rain asked me something that has kept me awake for weeks. She said, "Will we be prisoners in golden cages, or will we be allowed to remain who we are?" He looked around the room at all the powerful humans who would decide the aliens' fate. I propose something that has never been done before. Not relocation. To research facilities, not trade agreements or military alliances. Full citizenship. The right to live among us as equals, to share their knowledge freely, and to help us become better than we are. The room exploded in arguments. Some delegates cheered while others shouted in outrage. Councilwoman Lee Min-kyung voiced what many were thinking. How can we trust aliens we have known for only a few months? What if they change our society in ways we cannot control? What if this is all some kind of trick? And what if it is not? Jun Seok replied. What if we have the chance to save an entire civilization and gain the wisest teachers in the galaxy? Are we so afraid of change that we would let innocent people die? Far away on Kepler 44-b, the Varati listened to broadcasts of the human debates through their quantum communication systems. The colony's situation had grown worse in the months since first contact. 2 more atmospheric processors had failed, and the genetic degradation was accelerating. They were running out of time. Elder Whisper of Morning Rain gathered her council in the memory chamber as another section of the city lost power. The floating crystals that held their ancestors' knowledge flickered weakly in the dimming light. The young species argues about our future, she transmitted to the assembled minds. Some would make us subjects for their experiments. Others would abandon us to die with what they call honor. But a few offer something we thought was lost forever. Young Flow of Evening whined, barely an adult, by Varati standards, pulsed with nervous energy. What if they betray us, as the did? What if we trust them, and they destroy us, as surely as the machines would have? Then we will die as ourselves, the elder replied. Is that not better than extinction in loneliness? The debates on Earth continued for weeks. Public opinion was divided almost equally. Some humans feared that alien influence would corrupt their culture, or that the Varati might be carrying diseases or hidden technology that could harm humanity. Others argued that contact with an advanced alien civilization was the greatest opportunity in human history. Dr. Yoon Taemin presented research showing that Varati biotechnology could help humans live longer, healthier lives. Their consciousness linking abilities could allow humans to share knowledge and experiences in ways never before possible. But critics worried about losing human identity in the process. Captain Jun Seok received a private message from Elder Whisper of Morning Rain during the final week of debates. Through the quantum link, her thoughts reached across the light years between them. Captain Jun Seok, we do not ask for charity or pity. We have lived with dignity for 8 centuries, and we can die with dignity if that is our fate. But if your people choose to welcome us, we offer not just our knowledge, but our loyalty. We understand what it means to lose everything. We would never bring harm to those who showed us kindness. The final vote was scheduled for a Tuesday morning. Representatives from Earth, Mars, the Jupiter colonies, and dozens of other worlds cast their decisions electronically. The results would be binding on all of humanity. Jun Seok sat in the observer gallery, his hands clenched tightly together. Below him, President Park announced the results in a voice that carried across human space. The motion to grant full citizenship and integration rights to the Varati people passes by a vote of 312 in favor, 298 against. The margin was thin, but democracy had spoken. Humanity had chosen hope over fear, growth over safety. The evacuation of Kepler 44-2b would begin immediately, as cheers and protests erupted around him. Jun Seok closed his eyes and sent a quantum message to a dying world. Pack your things, Elder, you are coming home. The massive evacuation ships arrived at Kepler 4 for to be like metal mountains falling from the sky. Captain Kim Jun-seok stood on the bridge of the lead vessel, watching as thousands of Verati gathered in the Crystal Plaza below. After months of preparation, humanity was finally ready to save an entire alien civilization. Dr. Kong Soo-jin had worked without sleep for weeks to modify the human ships for Verati passengers. The aliens needed lower gravity than humans, different air mixtures, and special lighting that matched their dying world's red sun. Every corridor had to be rebuilt, every room redesigned. The first transport is ready for boarding, reported Lieutenant Park Hyjin. Medical teams are standing by to help any Verati who have trouble with the transition. The Verati moved slowly toward the human ships, carrying small bundles of their most precious belongings. Many were so weak they needed help walking up the boarding ramps. Elder whispered Morning Rain was among the last to leave, taking one final look at the crystal towers that had been home for 2 centuries. We never thought we would see the stars again, she transmitted to Jun-seok through the translation device. Your people give us a gift greater than life itself. They give us hope. The first Verati refugees arrived at Luna Station 6 months later. The space station had been completely redesigned, with sections of lower gravity and carefully controlled lighting. Gardens filled with plants from both Earth and Kepler 4 to be created, meeting spaces where humans and aliens could interact safely. 8-year-old Lim Minesio was one of the first human children to meet a Verati. She had been waiting in the garden dome with her father, Dr. O.J. Soong, who worked as a cultural bridge between the 2 species. When Echo of Distant Stars emerged from the transport tube, the little girl gasped in wonder. The young Verati scientist was tall and graceful, with skin that seemed to glow from within. Her 4-fingered hands moved like a dancer's, and her large dark eyes held ancient wisdom despite her youth. When she saw Minesio staring, Echo of Distant Stars knelt down carefully and extended one delicate hand. Hello, Minesio said shyly, reaching out to touch the alien's glowing fingers. I drew you a picture. She held up a crayon drawing showing humans and Verati standing together under 2 suns. Echo of Distant Stars' skin shimmered with colors that needed no translation. Joy, gratitude, and wonder at the kindness of this small human child. Through the translation device, her thoughts reached everyone nearby. Such brave little beings. To welcome strangers without fear. The real work of integration began on New Soul Colony, where adult Verati worked alongside human engineers to solve problems neither species could handle alone. The aliens' ability to link their minds together allowed them to coordinate massive projects with perfect precision. Humans brought creativity and adaptability that could find practical uses for even the strangest Verati ideas. Construction manager Yoon Taemin watched in amazement as a team of mixed humans and Verati built a new type of power plant in half the expected time. The Verati can share their thoughts directly, he explained to visiting reporters. When one of them learns something, they all learn it instantly. But they need our hands-on experience to make their ideas work in the real world. The most ambitious project took place on Earth itself, in a secret laboratory beneath the Swiss mountains. Elder Whisper of Morning Rain worked with Dr. Onesio Hyan on something that sounded like science fiction, combining human genetic therapy with Verati consciousness technology. Human bodies are strong and adaptable, the Elder observed, during one of their sessions. But your minds can only think one thought at a time. Our minds can process many ideas at once, but our bodies break easily under stress. Dr. Esio Hayan nodded as she studied the complex equations floating in the air around them, projected by Verati holographic technology. What if we could give humans the ability to think multiple thoughts simultaneously, while providing Verati with stronger, more resilient bodies? The first volunteers for the experimental treatments were carefully chosen from both species. Human doctors who had helped with the evacuation stepped forward, as did young Varati, like Echo of Distant Stars, who had chosen to make human space their permanent home. The process was slow and careful. Human volunteers received neural implants that allowed them to access multiple thought streams, similar to how Varati minds worked naturally. Meanwhile, Varati volunteers underwent genetic treatments that strengthened their bones and muscles, allowing them to work in higher gravity environments. Lieutenant Kim Hyjin was among the first humans to successfully complete the consciousness expansion procedure. "It is like suddenly having 10 brains instead of 1, she explained to her amazed colleagues. "I can pilot a ship, calculate navigation, and compose poetry, all at the same time, without any of the tasks interfering with each other." Echo of Distant Stars chose the physical enhancement treatment and emerged from the medical facility able to run and jump like a human child. Her first act was to visit Minesio, now 10 years old, and challenge her to a game of zero-gravity soccer in Luna Station's recreation dome. As the months passed, something beautiful began to happen. Human cities started incorporating the flowing, organic architecture of Varati design. Alien communities thrived in environments that would have killed their fragile ancestors. Children of both species learned together in mixed schools, sharing games and songs and dreams for the future. But the greatest change was invisible. The growing bond between two very different peoples who had chosen to trust each other. Humans learned patience and wisdom from beings who thought in centuries rather than years. Varati discovered courage and determination from creatures who refused to accept that any problem was unsolvable. Neither species realized that their greatest test was already approaching from the dark spaces between the stars. 25 years had passed since the last Varati refugees left their dying world, and the galaxy had become a very different place. Captain Bei Haiyan-Wu stood on the bridge of the UES Harmony, a ship that represented the best of both human and Varati engineering. Beside him, his first officer Melody of Nudons commanded the crew, with a voice that carried both human authority and Varati wisdom. The ship itself was a marvel that neither species could have built alone. Its hull curved like a living thing, made from human steel, reinforced with Varati crystal technology. The engines could fold space in ways that cut travel time by 90%, while the navigation systems used linked Varati consciousness to process millions of calculations simultaneously. "Captain, long-range sensors are detecting something big approaching from outside our galaxy," reported Lieutenant Song Ji-hoon from his station. The young man's eyes glowed with the subtle light of Varati neural implants, allowing him to process sensor data at superhuman speed. The energy signatures match theoretical profiles of devourer technology. Haiyan-Wu felt his blood turn cold. Every human in the fleet knew the story of the mechanical beings that had destroyed the Varati homeworld centuries ago. They were supposed to be gone, lost in the dark spaces between galaxies. But now they were coming back. Melody of New Dawns, once known as Echo of Distant Stars, placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. Her body had been strengthened with human genetic therapy, making her tall and graceful, but no longer fragile. "They expect to find the same weak Varati they destroyed before," she said calmly. "They have no knowledge of what we have become together on Earth." Admiral Yuhan Su received the emergency signals in her office, overlooking the Pacific Ocean. She was one of the first humans to undergo complete Varati consciousness integration, allowing her to think with the parallel processing power of an entire Varati council. As she absorbed the tactical data, her enhanced mind began calculating thousands of battle scenarios simultaneously in the same building. Harmony of two worlds. A Varati, who had chosen physical enhancement to serve in human military forces, studied the approaching threat through quantum telescopes. His strengthened body allowed him to work in Earth's gravity without strain, while his natural Varati wisdom helped him see patterns that pure human analysis might miss. "The Devourers move in the same formations they used 3 centuries ago," he observed. his thoughts transmitted directly to the Admiral's enhanced consciousness. They are machines, following old programming. They cannot adapt the way living beings can. The defense of human space became the greatest coordination effort in galactic history. Ships designed with hybrid technology launched from every human world, their crews, a mixture of both species, working in perfect harmony. Some vessels were piloted entirely by linked Varadi consciousness, reacting with the speed of thought. Others relied on human creativity and intuition to find solutions. No computer could calculate. Dr. Yang Minji watched the preparations from the Integration Research Institute on Mars. Her daughter, now a graduate of the first Mixed Species Academy, worked beside her to coordinate the scientific response to the Devourer threat. The young woman possessed human curiosity enhanced with Varati processing power, making her one of the most brilliant minds of her generation. The Devourers consume planets by converting organic matter into mechanical components. The daughter, explained as holographic displays, showed the approaching enemy fleet. But what if we gave them something they cannot process? What if we made ourselves impossible to convert? The answer came from the most unexpected source. Elder Whisper of More, now called Dawn by her human friends, sat in the memorial garden of New Earth Station, surrounded by children of both species. At over 800 years old, enhanced with human longevity treatments, she had become the living symbol of successful integration. We spent so long fearing the Devourers that we forgot something important. She transmitted to the assembled scientists and military leaders. They are machines. They follow patterns. But we, we have learned to be unpredictable. The battle began at the edge of the solar system, where human and Varadi forces met the Devourer fleet in the darkness between worlds. The mechanical ships were massive and powerful, just as the old Varadi records described, but they moved in predictable formations. Following programming that was centuries out of date, Captain Heinenwu coordinated his squadron using tactics that no pure human or pure Varadi force could have managed. His ships attacked in patterns that seemed random but were actually based on quantum calculations performed by linked Varadi minds. When the Devourers tried to adapt, human pilots used their intuition to change tactics in ways no machine could predict. The turning point came when young hybrid consciousness officers, like Lieutenant Ji-hoon, discovered something crucial. The Devourers could not process the neural signatures of enhanced humans or strengthened Varati. To their ancient sensors, the integrated crews appeared as something entirely new, something their programming had no instructions for handling. They cannot see us properly, Ji-hoon reported with excitement. Our enhanced biology confuses their targeting systems. We are invisible to machines that only understand pure organic or pure mechanical signatures. The final assault was led by Admiral Yoon-soo herself, her consciousness linked with Harmony of Two Worlds and dozens of other enhanced officers. They moved as one mind in many bodies, coordinating attacks with precision no individual could achieve, while maintaining the creative chaos that confused mechanical opponents. When the last Devourer ship fell silent, drifting as dead metal in the void, Dawn stood in her garden watching human and Varati children play together. Their laughter echoed through corridors designed by both species, in a station powered by hybrid technology. Orbiting a world where two peoples had chosen to become one, we were abandoned by fate and forgotten by time. She transmitted to the celebration, crowds gathering on every human world. But you found us. You chose to make us family instead of subjects, partners instead of prisoners. Today we are no longer two species sharing space. We are one people, writing our future together. They had been left behind, but humanity had made them one of us, and together they had become something greater than either species had ever dreamed possible.